Welcome to the July edition of 71 Magazine. I'm your host, John Bryant, and joining me in the studio today is the new CEO and President of Hospice of Western Kentucky, Gay Rogers. Gay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and welcome to Owensboro.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's a fabulous city.
Yeah.
Town, city, however you describe it.
Exactly.
However, it's wonderful.
Well, good. Listen, first of all, let's begin with, because really the whole purpose of having you on the show is to introduce you to the community. There was a very nice article in Messenger Inquirer, and when I saw that, I thought, oh, I got to have her on the show. So let's first begin with your background, like your hometown and your education and things of that nature.
Okay. Well, what drew me to Owensboro is the river. I was born in Ironton, Ohio, across the river from Ashland, Kentucky, and Huntington, West Virginia.
Okay.
So coming back to a river town is like coming back home. I've then moved to Cincinnati and then to South Florida, and as you probably have seen, and maybe in the article, it addressed that I was recently in Boston and Vermont, and have been in hospice for almost 30 years.
Okay.
I say I start when I'm 5 years old.
Absolutely you did.
But you know, so that's where I'm from, a little bit about how long I've been doing hospice. I have 2 children.
Okay.
One is a physician in Evansville, and one is an artist in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm originally from just south of Cleveland.
Oh.
So we do have a little bit in common there. Dayton is a ways away, but you have a son in Evansville. What did you say he does?
He's a physician. He's a pain management physician there, and he grew up in a hospice house.
Oh.
So I say he grew up in a hospice house because he wrote his essay to get into medical school on what he thought the physician role was in hospice care and in pain management.
Okay. Now you have some other interests though that I believe that I looked into. You do some, I may be stepping out of bounds here, but do you do some like personal coaching or?
I have. I've been hired as a consultant many times into going into organizations, mainly all hospices, of going in and either fixing structures, systems, the human element of it, teaching hospice because I've been doing it such a long time, increasing the census because maybe they weren't reaching out to enough patients and families or physicians and so forth, increasing that. So yes, I do that. I have done quite a bit of public speaking, motivational speaking and so forth as well. Okay,
now you in Boston, what was your position with hospice in Boston?
Well, I had a few. What took me to Boston, I was regional vice president to a large national hospice then for the East Coast. I lived in Columbus at the time, and Boston, Massachusetts was one of my areas. Well, after going for a few months there and visiting, fell in love with Boston, moved there, and then I worked with the Stewart healthcare system there as well. A very large healthcare system, an ACO, Accountable Care Organization, there in the Massachusetts area. Okay.
Now, Ironton, Ohio.
Yes.
I looked it up on a map.
Yes.
You're a couple hours away from Lexington East.
Correct.
And you are right on the river, so you really are more in almost very close to West Virginia.
Very close.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, because Ironton, I'd never heard of it before, so I had to look it up. What is Ironton known for?
Pig iron. We were the world's national leader of pig iron, and there's a lake called Vesuvius Lake that actually was the home of the pig iron factory or the chimneys.
Oh, okay.
The iron as they made the pig iron. That was long before my time, John.
Exactly.
And but they're still there. You can go there. And then Ironton, growing up, was a fabulous little town, and we had across the river was Armco Steel in Ashland, Kentucky, and Ashland Oil, and then yes, down the road was Huntington, West Virginia. I went to school in Ashland, Kentucky, at my nursing school with King's Daughters Medical Center, who was affiliated at that time with University of Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And you asked a little bit about my background, educationally wise. My background, I started off as a registered nurse in hospice, went back to school when I was in South Florida, had my master's and bachelor's in human resource as well as organizational development, and then went to George Washington, graduated with my coursework in human organizational learning.
Okay, well listen, you are very well qualified for this job. There's no doubt about that. They found a gem. I'm telling you what, they really did. So,
well, I hope that's the general opinion of everyone at some point.
I'm sure. So what was your impression of Owensboro since you've settled in here?
Oh, I have to say, my impression coming in the first time was that it's a quaint town and probably a little quiet. Well, come to find out, it's not as quiet as I thought. I'm loving it. First of all, the warmth of the people. I just can't say enough.
Right.
It's been such a long time since I've been in a community where folks are so welcoming and offering. The first night I went to trivia night, and I had 3 business cards from people I was speaking to there, offering to help me and answer any questions.
Right.
And so the impression is that it's a warm and friendly, but yet has a lot of sophistication and a lot of offerings.
Yeah.
There's something happening all the time.
Yeah. Really is a community on the move now, especially with the redevelopment of downtown and everything that's happening in that arena. So, well, with all your experience with hospice, excuse me, what changes or opportunities have you been able to see so far?
Here in Owensboro specifically? Well, I've been here 5 days.
Good. Well, you've had plenty of time to develop a long-term plan, right?
So in the first 5 days, first of all, let me say what a great team it is. And if I get choked up, because anytime I talk about the team in hospice, I get a little choked up because I'm so passionate about it. The team that I have the opportunity of being a part of, and it's a team, it takes all of us. My role is no more important than everybody else's role in the organization. We're all one team moving, and the patient and the family's in the middle. And so I'm so pleased in seeing their passion, their level of expertise. The senior leadership team that I'm privileged to work with are so competent and skilled. The board is so passionate, and you probably know many of the board members, so committed to the mission. And so just that alone, because as I said, sometimes I go into organizations that need fixing. This is not an organization that needs fixing. Do we have opportunities? We absolutely do. Even though we've been a hospice and palliative care program, palliative care in the past couple of years has changed, and I think we have a huge, tremendous opportunity working with Owensboro Health. They have now, I think it's been a couple of years, and correct me if I'm wrong, they have a palliative care floor now, and there's a very qualified physician there who is leading that effort within the hospital. We work well with Owensboro Health and palliative care unit there. I think there's even more opportunities to work even stronger within the community to make sure that we have a palliative care team in the community. And so I think that's an opportunity. I think there's an opportunity to more to educate about hospice, even though we talk a lot about hospice, but there's still so many misconceptions and misperceptions and myths. And even here in Owensboro, I think we have a lot of opportunity and continue to build the program. We definitely have more patients and families to serve. There's so many more out there, and yet the word hospice is a scary thing to them.
Yeah, I know, excuse me, I know if people haven't had the opportunity to be involved with hospice or to experience them firsthand, it is a little hard to grasp. You know, I unfortunately and fortunately on either side have had those opportunities to work with hospice through loved ones and things of that nature. And personally, I can't say enough good things. They just made not just the patient, but the entire family, which is so important, made everybody feel so comfortable throughout the entire process, and they made it a whole lot easier. For those who may not quite understand everything about hospice, what would you say is the #1 myth that people think when they think hospice?
That hospice is about dying.
Right.
That hospice is about dying. And that's so not true. Let me ask you a question, John. How many people in Kentucky in the next, how many people in their lifetime in Kentucky are going to die?
Yeah, all of them.
Exactly. Exactly, right? It's a fact of life. You've heard people now talk about bucket list, and people are saying, before I die, I want to do these 100 things, right? Well, hospice is no different. The beauty of hospice, and it is a beauty and a privilege, when someone is diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, and maybe they have a year prognosis, and maybe they don't always know that. And part of our job is to support them in that knowledge and understanding, well, how do you want to live? First of all, I'm not promised tomorrow.
Right.
Are you?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I could get out here and get hit by a school bus, right?
That's right.
Well, none of us are promised, but we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, the beauty of hospice is that folks do know many times,
Right.
families do know, and there's nothing more precious than being able to determine how you want to spend your last bucket list
Right.
items
Right.
in the last 6 months, year, few months of your life.
Right.
So,
But and I think too. I mean, when I think ahead, I'm not afraid to die. I don't want to suffer, and you don't want your family to suffer that go through that. And to me, and that's one of the major things I think in my mind that hospice provides. But not only that, but dignity. That I think is something else, because we all know that once people get to a certain point, dignity goes out the window, okay? Because you can't do certain things for yourself and things of that nature. And sometimes it's hard for families to do these things.
that's right.
So this I think where hospice really comes in, and they bridge that gap, I think.
Absolutely, education. Most people, the greatest fear is fear of the unknown.
Right.
And so if we can help families, even patients, understand what their journey is going to be like, and dying is the easy part.
Right.
It's living
Right.
up until that time, whether that's us living every day, right, the challenges of life. Many times our patients and their families have already gone through some of the toughest days they're ever going to face.
Right.
Sometimes if it's a cancer patient, loss of hair. That sometimes is more traumatic than the actual event of getting ready to die.
Right.
And anyone who's been around a person, and it sounds like you have, who's gone through the last few hours of life and been there at the bedside during that transition, being at the bedside of someone who's dying, I believe, is like walking on holy ground. It's a different shift of energy, and all of a sudden it's a release, and you feel a freedom from this person, the body laying there. You sense this sense of freedom that finally they're living again.
Right, exactly.
Maybe not inside the body, but they're living again.
Right, exactly.
And that's why folks feel so passionate about hospice when they've had the service, I think, as well as working in it. It changes you.
Yeah.
It just changes your whole outlook on life.
Yeah, it really does. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Hartford House facility.
Yeah.
Beautiful facility, by the way.
Beautiful facility. I mean, I've been, as you said, in a lot of different places and a lot of different inpatient facilities. And I have to say, this is one of the most beautiful. The decor inside, maybe many people don't know, but the Medicare regulations, we're governed by a lot of regulations, as if every healthcare system is. And Medicare actually said, if you're going to have an inpatient unit, you have to make sure it has certain things, such as a family room. We have a beautiful family room.
Yes.
Families can go in, have a cup of coffee, some refreshments, sit down, take a load off, have some quiet time.
Right.
It also says there needs to be a place for the family to sleep. We have beds in each room where families can spend the night. There's no rules. If they want to bring 10 of their loved ones there to be there during that transition time, or even during a time of crisis.
Right.
Sometimes people come in for short periods of time. There's a walking path that someone generously donated to us, so you can get outside. Every room has double doors where the beds, if a person can't be in a wheelchair, that patient, they can be in the bed and be rolled out to the beautiful scenery and listen to the birds, because hospice is about living,
Right.
and it's about laughter. We have a lot of our meetings there in the living room part of the Hartford House. We'll have lunch and learns. We've recently started an endowment. We had some endowment lunches there to just bring the community in.
Sure.
On Monday night, there's a reception at 5 o'clock there to invite community, for me to be able to meet people, but also just to see the beautiful place it is. But we do that, we bring life in, because we want our patients and families to be surrounded by everything living still.
Right.
It's not a sad place. One of the myths you asked about earlier, and this is so true at Hartford House, and it's so true in our home program, is people think, oh, to work in hospice or to go to that place where people die has to be the most depressing place in the world or be the most depressing job. It's absolutely the opposite.
Right.
it's just absolutely the opposite. It is so life-affirming and full of life and beauty. It's just a special place. And I would invite anybody who wants to come tour to please call Angela in our office and ask for Angela or myself or anybody, and we'll be happy to meet you there and give you a tour of the facility.
I've taken a tour of it, and it is just, it's stunning. As a matter of fact, when I was taking a tour, they were getting ready to hold a wedding, a pre-wedding wedding, because a young lady's father was not going to be able to attend her wedding when it was scheduled, and so they sort of had a mock wedding right there. So it was precious, and all the people there are just, they're so bubbly, they're so happy, they're, you know, so you're right, it isn't really a stale environment at all. Let's talk about your support staff. I mean, what kind of structure do you have out there?
Well, hospice, the concept of hospice, and I was around when we actually started the concept of hospice, or a few years after that, is hospice is a circle of care. And for patients and family, think about a hub and a wheel with spokes. Patient, family in the middle. We have social workers, we have nurses, we have spiritual care counselors, we have our wonderful home health aides that go in the home, we have volunteers, we have over 250 volunteers. We have our administrative staff, of course, those who are responsible to help the community give to our nonprofit, to make sure the word is out for community education. We have that type of support staff. The board, well, the board is a volunteer group that is so supportive. Well, and they are a gift to this community, and they make sure hospice and the Hartford House and Hospice of Western Kentucky is the quality program it needs to be, and they're so supportive of that. So that's the circle within the support system itself, and of course partnering with the healthcare agencies and our hospital systems.
Right, exactly. Well, listen, we're about out of time, but I just want to thank you for joining us. But before we leave, if folks that are watching would like some additional information, where can they call? They can call, and now I need to get my cheat sheet out because I haven't memorized that in 5 days yet. It's 270-926-7565. That's the phone number. Call and just ask for help or information, and we'll get you to the right person. Okay, thanks, Kay, for joining us
John,
today.
thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on because I still got more questions here we could ask. So
that would be great.
We'll have you back on again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, stay tuned. Up next, we're going to have Sherry Plain with the Workforce Solution. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.